Hello.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Hope everybody's doing this good on Wednesday. We are one day away from September. We started school in early August, kicking off a long and hot summer. And here we are going into Labor Day weekend. Welcome to this week's Access Denied, where we'll be talking about a few things. We'll talk about the A through F grade report. We'll be talking about the ASD not taking over schools. We definitely want to hear from parents. We had a lively discussion about IEPs this past Monday on our speaker series with none other than Miss Sonia Dobbs. And last week we had a lively conversation that had a lot of comments as we talked about sixth to eighth grade. But just wanted to check in. Everybody start coming in. Let us know how you doing. Sonia, how you doing this morning?
Hey, hang it in there, John. How you doing?
Doing good, rocking and rolling. Right, it's hot, but it's getting cooler.
Oh, is it? I missed the part.
In the evening times, you feel fall coming. It ain't hot, but in the daytime, yeah, it's still blazing.
I am determined. I'm putting up my Christmas stuff next month.
Okay. And how's your week been going?
It's been going. It's been rough. Uh,
Yeah.
it has been just being vulnerable. My son was in a really bad accident August the 21st, and he sustained a head injury and
Mhm.
a brain bleed, and we are dealing with the residual of that accident. So it's been rough.
I can only imagine, and I tell you, myself, but parents included, have been praying. We had a few parents just reach out and they told us they're sending their prayers and can't wait to have you back. And so appreciate you even coming on today. Know you got a lot going on, but we wanted to do this week's Access Denied.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been saying it all along. That's why it takes a movement of parents. It's not about me.
Mm-hmm.
When life happens to me, the movement can't stop. And I appreciate you and the team and the parents keeping the movement going. We're not missing a beat. And that's I think that's what one can hope for is that
Yep.
it doesn't stop because things happen in our lives. So thank you guys for continuing to do the work that we all been purposed to do. And it makes it easier for me to know that things are just, they're running and
Mm-hmm.
the movement is continuing to be built. So thank you.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And we got people checking in. Thank you guys for jumping in. I see we got Sarah Carpenter up here saying good morning. That she's praying too. We got Rhea, who I got to do a tech check on, so she can get her name logged back on here on StreamYard. But thank you guys for checking in with us. We want to start this morning with just going over an article that's come out in the Tennessean. I don't quite understand the why or the hold up or when it got passed, but it was a pretty interesting article. I didn't know this law had passed several years ago, and it hasn't been applied yet. And so I think the
Oh, I know what
department.
I'm gonna say. I know what you're
What's that?
talking about. Is the grading of the schools. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yep, the grading of the schools. And so we'll read a little bit about this just so parents can understand. Because again, even myself, I remember they talked about this several years ago. Didn't know it passed or didn't know it passed, and it's been kind of hanging out. But just want to get your perspective. But it says, let me go back. That is not the right one, but it's essentially the A through F grading report. And what was interesting, what came out earlier is like the memo said that they were halting the assignment of A through F letter grades for Tennessee schools. And what it said that each parent would know when it passed on what the score of your child's school is. And I think people were really weighing in when it first came out. But again, it's been several years since it passed. And so I think a lot of us really forgot all about it. But let me pull this through.
None. I ain't forgot none of that at all. Some stuff I just don't forget.
And it says memo. Tennessee halts assignment of A through F letter grades to schools. and we'll read a little bit. It says the Tennessee Department of Education has halted the assignment of A through F letter grades for schools according to the memo obtained by the Commercial Appeal. The department was expected to assign and publish letter grades to schools this fall, a first for the accountability measures that has been stymied since its creation. Tennessee Department of Education Commissioner Penny Swin cited COVID-19 learning disruptions in 2020, 2021 state test and participation rates are the reason for pausing the letter grade. And it will go down. It just says this A through F letter grading accountability system should always reflect consistent and trustworthy information to families, and especially so in the inaugural year, Swin wrote in a memo dated Wednesday. The legislation passed in 2016 and was set to take effect in 2017, 2018, but has since been delayed. And so, Sonia, as you see this, what are some of the things that come top of mind for you?
I don't forget nothing.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna take y'all back. Y'all gonna go back with me. Come
Mm-hmm.
on.
Let's do it.
TCAP scores came out last spring.
Yes.
Y'all remember the celebration because 85% of the students in the school building had to participate in Tennessee Ready.
Yep.
And y'all remember there was a large amount of schools in the state of Tennessee that had enough children to participate in Tennessee Ready this year and doing virtual setting.
Mm-hmm.
What this tells me is they do think we forgot that they were celebrating that. So what you just said in that article, what that memo says, it says memo. That means it was written from the Department of Education. Right. So they think we don't forgot, first of all, that they had to have a certain amount of students in each school to participate. And so in metro schools, Shelby County schools during the pandemic, although those scores were not counted, had to have at least 85% of those students participate. Mm-hmm. In order for them, because they was going to take away their fund, they state funding. Y'all remember that? Let me walk you back. Let me rewind the tape. Okay? Y'all remember all that? The Department of Ed and the state was going to take money away from Shelby County and Davidson County schools. Y'all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So then they had enough students to take the test. So now this is saying what? That there's not go up. It says there's not enough what? Participation in order to
Yep. And one thing it talked about, it said the memo was sent out because it didn't want to reflect the learning disruption that COVID caused. But the other thing that came out was, the legislation was passed in 2016.
Wait a minute. I'm still rewinding the tape.
Mm-hmm.
So now everybody done had a whole birthday party about growth. Okay, and a whole celebration, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we get a memo because ain't nobody celebrating no more, and don't nobody want to share them F's in them D schools across the state of Tennessee. So what y'all hoping is what? That we gonna forget and you're gonna keep on.
People just forget.
It's been 6 years since this passed.
Yep, 6 years. Wow.
So what I think can I tell you what I think we ought to do? I hope Sarah's listening. I think we ought to grade our schools. What we waiting for? Y'all said the kids is recovered to baseline. Mm-hmm. Y'all said that the kids done grew. It's been since 2016 since this law has been the law. So if I break the law, I need to be exempt from laws for myself, right? If I get a speeding. Right. So this is what I don't understand. How in the world are there exceptions to laws when it benefits the system? Somebody answer me that.
Yeah, and I would love to know the state rep and the people who voted for it to see how they feel that it's been 6 years. And I, remembering the conversation, I also remember in 2016, I just had finished knocking on a lot of doors, talking to parents, and it was around priority schools. And 90% 95% maybe parents who had kids in priority schools. Do you think they knew that their school was a priority school, Sonya?
No, most of them don't know now. And
No.
what I'm afraid of is this: there's a lack of transparency.
Yeah.
There we continue to ask for the same thing. John, I would be interested to know how they plan to like what did the law say about how they plan to grade the school? Like what
Mm,
warrants an A, a B, a C, or D, and an F grade for the school?
hmm
What does that checklist look like?
That's a good question. I think in the last part of this article, now that you bring it up, let me do. And Miss Taylor says the curtains are finally closed, and it says, let me see if I can blow that up just a little bit. It says, dun, dun, dun. Yeah, let me get that. It says the letter grades are among the state's accountability systems in place for transparency to families. The letter grades also carry an added weight as an accountability measure under the state's recently passed funding formula, TISA, Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement, set to take effect in the fall. Beginning in 2024-2025, the law says schools that score a D or F letter grade could consequentially require a corrective action or undergo an academic and fiscal audit.
So the reason why they're not going to do this is because they would have so many corrective action plans and
Mm-hmm.
so many fiscal audits that they
Mm-hmm.
would be able to manage it.
I mean, if you look at it, and last week we did talk about growth, and saying I don't know if you got a chance to catch it, but I had one of the liveliest conversations, and we essentially said, if your child started off in the sixth grade at the pandemic, and now they were in the eighth grade, but for math wise they were still on a sixth grade level, which kind of work would you want to give your child? Would it be the sixth grade or the eighth grade work? And I think it sparked that. One of our parents, Shamika Booker, talked about being a tutor and having several children struggling in the sixth grade with multiplication. And it started a whirlwind. It was a hard topic to just think through, that
Mhm.
sixth and eighth grade and you don't know your times tables, but it's our reality.
I always like to liken growth to this to help parents to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of questions that I want you to ask yourself. Who's growing?
Mm-hmm.
Who's growing? What does growth look like compared to peers and to that child's past, growth rate?
Mm-hmm.
Is the growth accelerated enough? You can grow, but have you caught up to where you need to be? Is the growth fast enough? Is it accelerated enough? Those are the questions that we have to ask. And the problem is a lot of parents don't know to ask or how to ask that. Miss Moppet says it best. She says that what did she say? They grew from a D minus to a D plus, and we
Mm-hmm.
celebrate. That's nothing to celebrate.
There's nothing to celebrate.
Nope. Nope.
So I say with that as I come back on the screen, I think for parents, be on the lookout. Another part of that article talked about that by September and November, more information would be out, and so it'd be interesting to see like what does that mean as we look at our individual. I think last week one of our parents said they still haven't gotten their kids' scores, and then we know they're putting out information. So just be on the lookout for that. That'll be interesting, and it'll be important for parents to pay close attention to, because if you don't know the letter grade, it doesn't give you a real indication on how the school is doing. And Victoria says that is my reality with my scholars. So we are working on his multiplication his multiplication facts so he can understand his grade level math in the eighth grade. And yeah, I just think that's hard. It's very hard to do division, and math is very foundational. Your addition and subtraction that helps you with multiplication and division, and then you start to move up to algebra and calculus and trigonometry, but you got to know the basics first.
I gotta give y'all a piece of information that you got to have. I hope you catch this. If your child is behind, listen to this. And I'm talking about absent of very, very difficult disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
Do not allow them to go backwards on your child. I know this gonna sound crazy, and I hear what y'all saying. If the child doesn't know multiplication, don't let them keep them there trying to learn multiplication.
Mm-hmm.
Research says, and I know for sure that you cannot just say, okay, I'm just going to work on multiplication to let them catch up. They'll always be behind. You've got to set high expectations, and you've got to get them on an accelerated path to doing algebra. You cannot hold them there. They'll never progress if you do that. So
Yeah,
don't
and
let somebody do a plan saying, well, we're going to work on his multiplication and we're going to slow down on him learning how to do algebra. Biggest mistake ever. Don't do it. Say, nope. You make sure he learns his multiplication and you get him on grade level.
and thankful to Miss Dobbs who talked about that. It said we got to do both. Like we can't slow down the grade level work, and we can't not skip the past work that wasn't mastered.
Nope. You can't do it. Your child will never, ever catch up. They'll never catch
Mm-hmm.
up. Listen to me. They will never catch up. If and it's not their fault. But what you've got to do is you've got to get out the emotion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Take yourself. And I like to use CJ as an example. When CJ was in the seventh grade reading on the second grade reading level, we didn't give him second grade level reading books.
Mm-hmm.
We had to accelerate the reading and the type of reading that he did in order to move him forward. When he first started at Liberty, he was bringing home 18s on his report card, y'all. They
Wow.
in the seventh grade, he didn't need to go to eighth grade. And had I
Right.
gotten emotional and not gotten relentless and not had
Right.
educators who said, nope, we're not going to keep him here, we're going to move him, he'd still be there. Is he still struggling some? Yes. But right now, he's taking theology. He told me just yesterday, I'm struggling
Okay.
in theology with the reading. Okay, I got some books that I took theology with at Trevecca. We're going to read those books that were at Trevecca. We're not going backwards. Don't let them do it. Don't
Mm-hmm.
let them do it.
Yep. And Miss Taylor says, don't let them put your kids in a box. But she also says, yep, when I was young, I was introduced to multiplication in second grade. I remember clearly it was Miss Henson's class, and it was Miss Henson class at Inglewood Elementary. And we did it the second part of the year to really get ready for third grade, which we started doing it at the beginning of the year. And they're teaching way different now. Yep. And then Victoria says multiplication is an intervention outside of our learning time in homeschool. So yes, you are totally right because they will stay behind. And then Ms. Lowe comes and good to see you again, Ms. Lowe. Let me pull up your comment. I'm gonna have to go to the minimum.
While you're finding that multiplication is a memory math. If your child is struggling with multiplication, I would get an evaluation on their memory, their ability to take information and to
Mhm.
memorize. Get them. There's either two things. Either, and I always ask the question: how do we know the difference between a struggling reader and poor instruction?
Mhm.
You have to ask them questions. How do I know if the child a struggle like has a disability or some type of deficit versus but they receiving poor instruction?
Mhm.
You gotta get that question answered.
That's a good point. And Dana says, yes, growth is a key. It's not easy to get the information from the school. I think all of us on here, Ms. Lowe, have experienced that. Even myself. Ask what are the basic skills they should have entering and leaving each grade. help your child to understand how it applies to equip themselves in the current grade level as a parent. We need to make that connection for the kids so they can understand that this is foundational. Okay.
And we have to teach our children how to effectively advocate for themselves. CJ, I always use CJ. It's my own child. CJ he was having trouble with Spanish and he was having trouble with uh, um, chemistry. So, to Miss Lowe's point, she says teach the child how to apply and equip themselves. So I said, okay, who is it in the school that we're supposed to go to? Do you have an advisor and a counselor? He has both in his school, an advisor and a counselor. Which one has the responsibility to help you to get the tutoring you need? He said, oh, I think it's my advisor. The way I equipped him was, I need you to go to the advisor and let them know the struggles you're having and ask them to help you to get tutoring after school. Those are the things that we need to equip them with. It's the problem solving of how to advocate for yourself. Now, when they get in the freaking building and it's time for Spanish and algebra, that ain't me.
Oh yeah, I agree. Spanish and algebra, hang it up for me.
Chemistry, anything else, that is not on me. That
Yeah.
reading, some man got on my Facebook page the other day that took everything I had not to curse him out. I didn't do it. I prayed and took a deep breath, and one of the other parents got it. Thank you, parent, for getting him. Because he said that reading was the parent's responsibility. And somebody, I don't know if it was Krishan or somebody, told his ASS up, and I just closed the Facebook page. Yeah, I wasn't gonna be nice about it.
And those be the parents who can't read. I mean, people say all day like snarky comments for parents, realizing that you may not be in the best situation, not because you were not giving your all, because they just didn't give you a chance. And as much as you fight and as hard as
Parents
you try to
teach
help,
children how to read.
yeah,
Parents are not equipped. Parents do not know how to teach children how to read, and most educators do not. They did not take a course in school to teach children how to read. And right now, that's why they have to have their professional development. Go back, and the colleges and universities that are accredited in the state of Tennessee must teach teachers how to teach children how to read, starting in July 2021. That is the law. And what we've got to do as parents, we see how they have not implemented this grading system law. We have got to make sure that they follow the law and these policies and procedures that they have in place, and we have to hold them accountable to it.
point blank, point blank. And thank you for checking in. Tammy and Miss Taylor says you have the right as a parent to request an evaluation, and most schools have a school psychologist, especially around now. I think they went towards the nurses and the psychologists with SEL after we had the COVID money.
Yes, but the psychologists are the people who can evaluate abilities. The nurses can't. So make sure that you know how to properly ask, and maybe that's something that we need to get Miss Dobbs to put together for us, how to properly ask for the evaluations. One of the things that I'm learning about literacy and reading is the state is having trouble holding the school districts accountable for grades K through 2. As we know, TCAP is the litmus. It is the measurement that is used, receipt that the state of Tennessee gathers based on No Child Left Behind when they were required to hold schools accountable for academic progress. Well, they implemented the TCAP test, right? That's how we started getting that information, but it's grades 3 through 8. Otherwise, the state of Tennessee is not very sure what is happening district-wide grades K through 2.
Right, the foundational years.
Grades 3, too late. That's when the state knows what's happening with the child. Grades 2, K through 2, the only thing that they have district-wide in metro schools is the MAP assessment, which is not required to be reported to the state of Tennessee. K through 2. You hear me, John?
And those are the foundational years. Make sense, as our good friend in St. Louis, Crystal, would say.
Look, who's minding the store? K through 2.
Right.
You can't monitor yourself. That ain't never worked. FBI don't need to be monitoring themselves.
I mean, we go back, Soledad O'Brien, and we were just looking through memories and the Disrupt Dismantle. Not only our show that highlighted Nashville, that featured a lot of great people like Bishop Campbell and other community leaders,
Mm-hmm.
but it also took us back to Soledad O'Brien. She did an interview with the governor at the time of the state of Tennessee. And at one point, she was listening, and she had a question. She was like, it's not making sense. So, does that mean you guys were lying? And just to give you background, with No Child Left Behind, the federal government created certain achievement levels you had to be at, but they allowed you to create your own test. And so what was happening, the state was intentionally creating an easy test so they can meet those achievement levels. And with her knowledge and her asking, he admitted. And it was a good day because it was transparency, but it was a bad day because a lot of families thought that their kids were on grade level statewide, and that was not the case.
Tammy has a question. What are teachers responsible for when kids are on a 504 plan? Let me explain to you what a 504 plan. Only an IEP requires specialized instruction. A 504 and an IEP are both accommodations, but an
Hmm.
example of a 504 is specialized seating. Your child can sit right here on the right side of the room. There's a difference. A 504 does not require the teacher to give that child specialized instruction. It may be something like the child can be dismissed at 2:45 instead of 3 because maybe they're afraid of a crowd. Both are accommodations, but only one of them, which is the IEP, includes specialized instruction. So if your child is needing specialized instruction and they have a 504 plan, they don't have what they need. They don't have what they need in place. And it's only what's on that 504 plan is what the teacher is supposed to be following. So I hope that helps you, Miss Tammy, to answer your question.
Yep. And then I think Miss Taylor says you can request, you can call the school's guidance counselor, request an ST meeting, see what the teachers are observing, and go from there to start the evaluation. And
You
Sonya,
we
I cut.
call member of the education team and
Hmm.
get and request a ST meeting. Any
Yep.
member. So make sure you can call the guidance counselor, but you can request it even from the teacher. Please make your request in writing. Please, and
Yep.
have a certain amount of time in which they are required to respond.
To respond. And that's what I was gonna say too. I mean, we've just dealt with countless parents who'd be like, oh, we were talking about this over the phone, and what happens is like, I don't remember that. Maybe because I was just so busy, but the phone call to get the things work in progress, but to follow up with that email is going to be critical because it creates the receipts. If people get amnesia or they just been overworked and underpaid, you got your receipt.
She says, I know a fifth grader that's at Stride Elementary and they're just figuring out her learning disability. Why did it take so long? Let me tell you about the system. If you don't ask the question in the right way as a parent,
Mhm.
you'll be chasing your tail. And if you don't know how, this is what should be happening. From the law says, the federal law says that when children enter into school,
Mhm.
day one, kindergarten, they're looking for a disability. That is the law. The law is that they should be searching. When we was in church, we was saying this song, I'm looking for my Jesus. Well,
Mhm.
they should be looking for a disability when that child sits their butt in that seat. Now, why it took so long and what happened between that and that, I would need more information. But I agree. It to get to fifth grade to if that's an initial identification of a disability, that's scary.
Something's wrong.
Right.
Something's wrong.
But maybe the child hadn't had a diagnosis because they're still was trying to figure it out. That could be it. So I would need more details. But they should be looking for that from kindergarten.
Yeah. And let me flip it a little bit and really congratulate, a lot of parents who come on Access Denied, who come to our campaign training. So Monday morning, Sonya, I think I told you about this. There was a meeting at 8:15 at East Middle School. And it was with some parents who just were distraught how their family was treated in the process. I think being on this show, what ended up happening, not only did they go up there and was confused by the school not following the policy, and we still got to go back, but it was other Propel parents who had been at that school and had um, a negative response and a negative decision where students were expelled and had the chance to call the principal out on not addressing the real issues based on their policy. And I think a lot of times it's shows like this where we can all communicate and get to the point. Even Miss Taylor on here when we did it Monday night with our speaker series with Sonya Dobbs, she was able to communicate directly about the school as well and really put the issue that she was having on the table. And I appreciate it, um, having the ability to nip things in the bud when we realize it's not just one parent, but it's many.
Yeah. That's why we gotta build a movement of parents, man.
And you should have seen the parents. And so it started as a restorative circle, which I thought was amazing for the students. But when people say parents don't care, you seen at 8 o'clock in the morning, you seen everybody's parents in there, not looking at me and really trying to figure out the safety because the kids had got jumped the previous week at the game on a Friday, but everybody was suspended, and the parents couldn't figure out how their kids were jumped. Like it's on video, cell phone, everybody saw it, and they still got suspended. And so, like
What do I always say about that?
mm-hmm,
It ain't my child got to fighting.
yep,
It's my child got assaulted. And in that case, what is my child supposed to do if they're assaulted? And
right.
somebody should be able to tell you that.
And shout out to Cheyenne, who was, the muscle when she needed to be the quiet leader at other times, but it changed the tone. And even though the kids were in there, different parents, some kids were the aggressors, some kids were the ones that got jumped. The parents were able to get on the same page and say, this ain't gonna happen anymore. One parent said, I can guarantee my daughter ain't gonna be doing that anymore. But again, it still needed to hold the school accountable.
Absolutely, it happened on school grounds.
Right.
The school. Um, eh, this is what I found. I've been a mother for a long time now,
Mm-hmm.
28 years, and I've seen some stuff, and I've been, I've been a student, of course, and that didn't just start at that game.
Right. Right. It didn't. You don't even got to know the background. I can tell you it didn't start at the game based on what I heard.
Some folk already went to the office and
Mm-hmm.
already told a teacher, you know, all that stuff, and then everybody act like they got amnesia, like ain't nobody said nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had parents to call me who have reported that another child said they gonna jump their child, and then the person jumped the child.
Mm-hmm. It's real.
I had that to happen to my son at Hunters Lane. Y'all know I went in there like a hurricane.
Right.
The poor little boy got put in ISS so he could do anything. And I wasn't playing. I wasn't gonna leave until they did it. Ooh, that's bringing back some memories. I remember when that happened. I can tell
Yeah.
you the child name that did it and everything. I ain't gonna say it out loud.
Yep.
But he was a trip. And he had already been nitpicking. And I went up there and I said, look here, my child comes to school to learn. He don't come to school to fight. None of my children fight in school. We don't play that. So you got to take care of this. But I didn't say
Yeah.
it nice.
Yeah, that was the same thing that happened. I mean, it was evidence that it has been going on. And I mean, they were able to call the principal, like, you already got this information. I've been sent this to you to let you know. And when they came to the school, they actually saw the students who were supposed to be suspended still in school and made them pack it up. Like, you got to pack this up. Somebody ain't communicating, somebody misleading, but this ain't right. And we need a real meeting.
So somebody lied.
Yep. Yep. Multiple times. And,
Somebody
and that's And that's just it. We got some things coming up. I want to say shout out. I don't want to miss somebody, but definitely Miss Taylor, Victoria. Um, remember some of the parents who were there last night, Sonny. Demetria Prince.
last night
Yeah.
at the East.
No, no, no. For the campaign call.
Miss Bennett, Miss
Yep.
Taylor, Victoria, um, Nicole,
Yep.
mhm,
And just know, like, it's encouraging
and Miss
because
Moppin.
and Miss Moffin, like, realizing the power that we have to really get things done. And when it's just not one voice, because everybody on that call last night is strong as an individual. But what we realize is hard to just advocate on your own. But when we showed up at East and we had not only the parents, but people who advocate, people who had on the Propel shirt, it showed that we're organized and it's not even about the people who had on the Propel shirts. It wasn't our kids, but we were there to stand in the gap for those parents.
We were organized. You know what? There's a song I don't know. It's a American song from sea to shining sea. We gonna organize from the Cumberland River down to out north at the bottom. Sure.
Hmm.
We ain't playing with y'all, man. Ain't nobody playing. Hey, I wear a Mika ad.
I know. We play that video probably once a week.
We coming for you.
Hmm.
You know what? It's not personal. It's just like as we said, folk lie and folk don't, folk not really tell us the truth about our children. Folk, you know what? I think the thing that makes me madder than anything is when somebody look at me in my face like I'm dumb and tell me the
Yep.
opposite of what I see. If you gonna make me mad and turn flips and helicopter and tear up something, do that to me. And that's how these parents feel.
That's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I'll end with this story, and it was a headline. And I think when we think about just history in general, being able to know our history, it says what a member of the Clinton 12 tells his grandson about desegregating Tennessee schools. And that's a whole nother conversation as we think about desegregation. But I think one of the things that stood out in this story was the generational wealth of this kid, and I'll read a little bit of it. He attends Father Ryan, which is a private school. His father was one of the first people that integrated Clinton schools in West Tennessee. And what I loved about it, the Tennessean gave them the platform to interview his grandfather. And it says Bobby Kane, one of the Clinton 12, a dozen black students who integrated Tennessee schools 66 years ago, on August 26th at Clinton High School, asked his grandson to interview him about it. And this was just a little excerpt that I'll play.
Summer, and we didn't think anything about it. Campus, and also it was like a bulletin board, for Black History Month.
Sure.
I was looking over, just sketching through. I was like, now I saw your picture on there,
Oh, okay.
and I was just amazed, and I don't think you know how proud I am, because like I literally told everybody around, everybody I saw, like, hey, that's my grandfather, that's my grandfather.
Okay.
Everybody, teachers, and ended up having a history lesson, all my classes, because
Sure.
he went down and told them everything about it. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I just want to, just start by asking, what was that feeling like, getting the information that you're gonna have to go to
Well,
different schools?
initially, when I got the message of, I heard about that they were going to integrate it at the elementary school there on the hill, Green McAdoo Elementary School. Um, I was attending Austin High at the time, although they were still utilizing Green McAdoo as an elementary school because the black kids were going to school there and not downtown. And so it was my junior year when they said that when the fall of my senior year, I would be going to Clinton High. And I didn't think anything about it because we've been going downtown uh, playing with the white fellows in their recreation center, I guess because we weren't going that much. And then we would go out there on the football and play sandlot football. But when they said they were going to integrate the school there in September of the fall of my senior year, I didn't think anything about it. And even during the summer, and we didn't think anything about it, thought everything was going
And that's a little bit. I did want to highlight that as it related to education, like having this kid who may be having identity issues be able to interview his grandfather, which I really encourage everybody to read it because one thing I read about the grandfather, even as a senior, he was Malcolm X. He wasn't coming in there as Mr. King. He was coming in there as Malcolm X, and it worked for him. And if I could tell the grandson was proud to be able to sit down and have a real conversation about race and equity.
Yeah. Can you share that on our page so that the parents can go back and look at that? I want to look at it and listen to the rest of that too. It's very inspiring. Um, Thank you for sharing that, John.
Yeah, just good times. And Miss Christman checking in. Miss Christman is a force. Again, anybody who can come knock doors with us when we go up 4 flights of stairs, hey, we friends to the end. And being in Oakwood, talking to those parents, and I was like, okay, we having the parents come down, like, oh, we going up. And, yep, freedom fighters. That's what we were that day. So now we blessed to have freedom fighters on the team, whether you can be a submarine, a chopper, or a jet.
And that's what's funny was I was walking the dog. Well, the dog was walking me yesterday, and I was thinking about canvassing. I was like, oh, okay, this gonna get my energy up so I can canvas again. He was pulling me up the hill in the neighborhood. I was like, whoa, Jesus, getting my stamina together so we can go canvas. I miss that. I love that. Like that's the funnest part of the work we do because you get to meet so many people. And I'm an introvert,
Mm-hmm.
but to meet the parents at the door has always been special to me, and it's always been an emotional thing too. Like to knock on those doors, to see, I can remember the times after work we go and people open their doors, dinner's cooking, John, and
Yeah.
then we asked them did they know what a priority school was, and they say no. When we told them, like they'd be like, "Wait a minute, let me go turn my pot off."
Yep. Or when you first get to the door and they just looking at you like, what you doing at the door? And it'll take a minute for them to warm up. But once they realize why we there and they start talking, they
Yeah,
get it. Yeah, I had the issue too. As Miss Christmas said, activism is nothing without action.
come on now. Remember the dude in Haynes Garden? He was playing his PlayStation.
Come
He had,
on, man.
he was gonna whoop your tail. And
Come on now. He was coming.
but then, like he got into it, he was like,
Yeah.
and we didn't know what we was doing back then. Man, we was just knocking on doors, man. We was just we didn't know we was. I mean, we knew what we was doing, but we like didn't have no organization. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we didn't know what our vision and mission really needed to be. We just knew that we was hair on fire and we needed to let everybody in this city know, and that's what we did at that time. And now we got to move in appearance. We got strategy. We got a vision. And we got a mission. And so to look back on those days, like it's just just something to think about and something to laugh about sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And,
Journey,
and I,
Journey got her clipboard.
come on now. Come on now. Hey, teach a child and they'll lead the way. They'll lead the way. And when she always showed up, she was ready for a clipboard.
in her stroller, and she had a little bitty old clipboard. I had got her a little clipboard. She had a little ink pen, and she'd be in that stroller. She got what, 2.5, 3?
Mhm. On a journey.
Mhm.
And so I want to go back to some because I know we talk a lot about parents. We get a lot of parents with IEPs, but we also get a lot of parents who talk about bullying and fighting. And, Victoria has experienced it. Tammy says a friend of her granddaughter's yesterday was waiting for car riders at Ruby Majors and got punched in the nose by a little boy. Even when she got to her mom, the print was still on her face, which is troubling. Krishan says, my daughter was ganged at East after a game. Do you know how hard it was to keep her siblings and father from reacting? I don't send my child to fight, but I teach them to stand up for themselves. And so just clearly seeing this is, these are issues and it's troubling because I put myself in that place. I was like, what if I was in there and this was my son? And I was like, man, I gotta even calm down thinking about it because we become Papa Bear and my Mama Bear when it comes to our kids.
Let me tell y'all something. There is an actual anti-bully law. I'm going to bring you outside of the school.
Mm-hmm.
There is an actual law around like it's a law. It's a state of Tennessee law. And so when you and I'll find that information, John. Remind me, we'll talk about this.
Okay.
I need to probably give them like some location on where to find this law, the definition of bullying, harassment, cyberbullying, all of those things. This is what's happening because parents don't know like the proper process.
Mm-hmm.
Not your fault, and I'm not
Yep.
saying it's intentional. It's on purpose that you don't know. There is a whole process that the school is supposed to follow
Wow.
according to the law
Oh yeah.
around your child being bullied. And parents don't know. That's why your kid getting gamed and it's going on for years. It happened to me until I got mad and found out the law and took action.
Yep.
So next week, I think we should commit to actually having this information on here. I think that we should commit to reaching out to metro schools and having someone to come on our one of our speaker series to go
That
over
is a good point.
process.
That,
So folk ain't running around trying to figure it out, and it ain't in the hidden FBI secret catalog. There is a whole process to be able to report this stuff. It should be followed up upon until closure.
you ain't said nothing but a word. When I just said it, I said we get a lot of parents who have IEP issues, and Sonya Dobbs is met it. We haven't had somebody who can really come on and address the discipline and bullying and the school communication related to that. Yeah, and I think it'd be helpful for the school district to have informed parents who know the policy and who can reference the policy, and it'd be good for parents to let the schools know that this is the accountability part. This is the policy that you're supposed to be doing. And if you don't follow policy, then it becomes an issue. Then it becomes an issue, particularly with the law, if somebody gets hurt.
Yeah, there's a whole there's a whole thing that they're not doing from the documentation. Like they document, no, you guys are supposed to be able to document and report in your own words what happened. And I know that the schools are withholding that part of the policy and not doing
Yep.
that. If either they're doing it, not doing it at all, or they're not doing it consistently. And
Yeah.
so you're going to report that your child is being bullied or harassed, then you're supposed to be able to fill out a report about that. And your child should be able to report. Somebody should be not just taking your child's statements
Yeah.
like we did John earlier a couple of years ago when I
Yep.
showed up at school, the family, they didn't listen to me. I ain't gonna lie. I told them I'm on my way. I started what I was doing. They let them take them back in that back room. They got the eye socket beat on the off the bus, and their parent did not listen to me. They took them back in that back room, hoodwinked them. I like it
Um,
way. I mean, what can I do if you ain't gonna
Wow.
listen to me? Because they don't want you to take no action against them. They want it
Wow.
to be a secret. They're supposed to be reporting suspension numbers, discipline numbers to the state of Tennessee. What do y'all ever go to a restaurant and somebody tell you that the food is bad there? No,
Mhm.
they don't want you to know they food bad.
Right. We hear it through the grapevine, but that ain't gonna change nothing. Yeah.
Oh, we hear it after the child done been bullied 17 times because the school did not follow its process or the parent didn't know, bless their heart, because the process is so complicated and it's meant and it's intentionally done that way so that you don't know. So then you have y'all ever seen on TV where somebody getting bullied and they windmilling and the
Yeah.
bully holding their head back like that and they
Yep.
swing it. That's what parents be doing. They be fighting.
And it's a lot of energy.
They fighting and use a lot. Then you get frustrated. So either you take matters in your own hand, or you switch schools,
Hmm.
or your child endures mental health issues. Ask me, am I lying?
Yeah. And look how they tried to play Miss Moffat. They said, "Yeah, go to juvenile and put in a report yourself." But you only had you get down there and they like, okay,
No,
what's the
actually, that is the process. Actually,
okay?
that is what I had to do. And a district attorney will reach out. A district
Oh
attorney
wow,
prosecuted a child for bullying my child.
wow.
No, you do a report at. I'm gonna have that for y'all next week. But that is what you needed to do. There is a desk down there at the juvenile court system in which you do file paperwork down there. But there's paperwork that needs to be filed in school. So that's exactly what you needed to do. And a
Wow.
district, when I tell you that district attorney held my hand, called me, did I mean, the DA's office don't play. It's
Yeah.
a law. It is an actual law. They don't play about bullying. They don't play about that. And when I tell you that they prosecuted, did you hear what I just said?
Hmm.
Prosecuted the child for bullying my child.
Nip it in the bud.
So no, you do need to go down to the
Yep.
juvenile. I'm gonna have that whole process for y'all next week.
Yep. So wanted to thank you guys for coming on and Sonya, I'll just leave with this message. I think it's appropriate after having such a lively conversation with just all the work and realizing that it's a lot more work to do. I want to shout out Thomas and Tierra who have just been hitting communities, talking to parents, building relationships, demanding action. Also, Torvis, who has been coaching from the sidelines and anxious to come back. But I think she said it best. Miss Taylor just said, "Hey, Say, I want to thank you for getting on here, knowing what you're going through. Your strength is stronger than you think. I admire your strength and praying for you. And as a community, we all have to come together and be there for one another through thick and thin. And when that happens, like we stay unstoppable."
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. I told y'all are strengthening me. You're inspiring me. So I appreciate it. Hey, we got some job openings too. Movement is
Mhm.
growing. Like we've got to expand our team of organizers. So we are hiring part-time organizers. So anybody who is interested, go to our Facebook page. We'll share it again. I think I did it this morning. Maybe I did. I think I did it on my own page. But we'll share it at the top if you know anybody who meets those requirements or who may be interested. Please let them know. We're also hiring operations manager or operations support. So we'll put those positions on there. We're getting inquiries. I would like to get some more. All candidates are considered and will be interviewed. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And I'll put it up there just a little bit, just so people can see it, and
Okay.
then we will ride out.
Hey, it's a good problem to have to be able to grow.
Yes.
And as y'all can see, I know y'all saw my skillet. I didn't mean to have it in the picture. I cook when I get stressed out. So thank you, Miss Taylor, again. It should be on our page too.
Okay. Yeah. I
Yeah,
done.
we'll post it. We'll post it, repost it up there.
Okay.
I'll do it right now.
Well, thank you guys, and we'll see you next week. Cohort 16. We got the last class tomorrow. Look forward to you guys. You guys are fired up out there, our organizing and mobilizing class. And just know we're going to talk about campaign for excellence tomorrow at 5:59. So we'll see you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.